to your ministry, Honorable, what is your goal? And would you agree with me that the setup of your ministry by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is a strategic one and must be applauded? Thank you.
The goal is to try as much as possible with all the resources available to us and the political will that's coming from the presidency in setting up this ministry to ensure that we get water to nearly everybody as much as possible, and also to eliminate the sanitation problems that we do have. If one were to look at sanitation, it's clear to all of us here that the defecation, open defecation, is a very serious matter that we need to deal with, because there are no latrines, as it were, or improved toilet facilities. I think it would be a laudable goal for us to strive for every house to have a toilet. In the present-day balance of people saying one village, one dam, and so on and so forth, we could say one house, one toilet. I think that might help us get the whole sanitation matter addressed, in addition to the other aspects of sanitation as well.
Chairman is the nominee launching one house, one toilet initiative.
Mr. Chairman, it could be so.
Perennial flooding in Ghana has led to regrettable loss of lives and property, as well as spread of diseases. What are your strategies for tackling the floods in Ghana? Thank you.
The broad strategy would be to look at the regulations that affect us in this regard. For instance, the existence or non-existence of building codes that make provision for gutters and open drains and so on and so forth. These are things we need to work on. But being a new ministry and now waiting to do the consultation required to come to grips with all the problems that we're going to deal with, particularly the depth and nature of them, I'd say that the strategy would evolve out of the consultation that we're going to have with the sister sector ministries. But broadly, it is to ensure that there's discipline in our system, we comply. I think the real task would be to make sure that discipline is enforced. And the enforcement part of it has to be prominent in whatever we do. Thank you.
Can you just tell me or us what ideas you have to deal with this kind of complex waste, not just polythene bags? So those are just not difficult things to deal with, but the complex nature of our waste.
The focus that the president is giving to this ministry and the intention to ensure that we bring this matter to a closure as much as we can, I think is what gives us the opportunity to be able to consolidate all these reports, all these proposals, all these policy statements into one grand strategic approach to dealing with the matter once and for all. I think there are two aspects of the problem that we all know, but we've not been able to deal with over the years. The attitudinal side of it, and also the lack of finance, as I said.
I know in Germany, waste is rather a source of fuel for today's generating plant, power generating plant. And today, if somebody comes to you and say, I have finance, I want to put plants in Takrade, Accra, Kumasi, Tema, and convert all your waste into one basket, just pass it through my plant. It generates energy for you at 15.38 cents per megawatt. Will it make sense to you? Thank you.
When I was in the energy ministry, the bigger plant owners came. They wanted to generate about 150 or 150 megawatts from waste. And that made it a little complicated in getting all the waste together in one place to help them out. Some people have come with proposals with 40-foot type container plants that can generate about 1 megawatt, 2 megawatts. They can populate that all over the sites. We may have some constraints about how to feed into the system, but at least we'll take up the waste as quickly as possible. I do agree with that. I'd go along with it. We'd have to collaborate with our other colleagues from energy to make provision for that.
In Asia and Europe now has become the biggest industry. Apart from the revenue it generates, it also helps us in our waste management. What will you do to encourage green industry in Ghana?
And indeed, this is a very important question, and we all have our wild ideas about that. Given that we've not done enough consultation with all the stakeholders, it's something that I'd rather defer, but I do buy the idea 100% and would push it as much as we can. There are multiple uses of waste. One we just mentioned, waste to energy. Conversion of waste into compost we all know. But there are many other different areas that have been shared with me so far. I don't have the depth of knowledge on that yet, but I think the consultation would open up the way for us to be able to do that. It will be good for the entire country to turn it green from the waste that we all don't want to see today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Accra Sewage Improvement Project. It's beset with problems because some people have built on sewer lines, compressing the lines in such a way that the affluent is unable to pass through the lines, and so bursting out in the middle of roads. What will you do as the Minister for Water and Sanitation to make sure these things are rectified if the buildings will have to be demolished?
Mr. Chairman, the law is the law. If you contravene the law, if there's a way to address it, we have to resort to that. If the law courts decide that we should demolish a building, so be it. If there is another way of dealing with those trespasses, I think we've sorted that as well. So, Mr. Chairman, my answer would be to resort to the law, and that's why I talked about the enforcement earlier on.
National Sanitation Day was very, very dear to my heart when I was at local government. Will you continue with that project?
Mr. Chairman, I think this falls within the ambit of awareness creation. And it's a good thing for us to take this out there to the doorsteps of every community. But we need to do more than that. Yes, I think it's a good idea to continue with that. But we must be frank to ourselves. If we set an example as leaders, as political leaders, and we're not able to put in place a mechanism to let them pick it up and do it without us, would all end up being a political venture. So the political thing, I want to disengage us from it, gradually, and allow citizens to take it over and carry it forward.
There is a village in my community in Lawra called Yakturi. They have a mechanized borehole, and they are expected to contribute about 150 Ghana cedis every month to pay for electricity, to pump water in order to service the communities within that area, that catchment. I want to find out, many of these communities, in any case, are very poor communities. To mobilize 150 Ghana cedis is a lot. The district assembly is also very broke. I want to know from you, as the minister in charge of water resources and sanitation, are you going to consider the installation of a solar panel so that these mechanized boreholes can work, provide water free, especially for very, very poor communities? And the people of Yakturi are listening. They want to hear from you.
They want to hear that Karbo is talking in Parliament. Mr. Chairman, it's a very important issue, given the level of poverty of those who come from the north especially. The good thing is that many ideas have been peddled in the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing. And indeed, just passing by the ministry last week, some gentlemen came to the office with some proposals on solar panel-driven mechanized boreholes. And it wasn't just to bring a mechanized borehole powered by solar, and then we worry about the capital cost, the initial capital cost, but it also showed us how to recoup the cost back, so it can pay for itself over time. The only thing I wasn't clear about was the lifespan of the solar panels and the repayment period. But it's a good thing that we should consider seriously, and I would push it rapidly forward and see how we use that to provide water for all in the country without putting too much burden on the people. But they must also be sensitized to make contributions to sustain those boreholes. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would gladly accept that initiative and push it forward. Thank you.
Honorable Minister-designate, I'm sure you are very conversant with the water table situation in parts of the three northern regions. And you are very much aware that places like Damango and Bole have difficulties with groundwater. And the people in those areas are particularly concerned. They want to know what your ministry will do to ensure that the water situation in Damango particularly and in Bole, where the former president comes from, can be resolved once and for all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, indeed, as I indicated earlier, the NPP manifesto talks about mechanized boreholes and setting up treatment plants, water treatment plants. I think it's one major issue that we have to deal with from the standpoint of trying to get water from the Volta to supply those areas, because the water table is not optimal. And if there's water running through the rivers, can we have treatment plants that will lay pipelines and send the water out to those communities? Yes. I think the idea is around the ministries. I'll take it up seriously and see how we can implement that. From my understanding, it seems like there's even a proposal or some, I don't know what it's an agreement or some idea like that peddling around. Maybe even something has come to Parliament, I'm not sure. So we'll have to sort that. If you can't get groundwater from Damango or Boli, if you can get it from the Volta, we'll work on it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
In your discussion with His Excellency the President, what are the agencies that will be under this new ministry? This is clearly a new ministry. It will appear that it's being created from the Ministry of Local Government and then the former Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing. Now, the communication we have is that that ministry is only Ministry of Works and Housing. So it means that Water Resources has been carved out, Sanitation has also been carved out from local government. So in your discussion with His Excellency the President, what are the agencies and departments that will now come under your ministry so that it gives us some clarity in how to proceed?
The President made it very clear to me when he invited me, referring to my background consulting and public sector work, and said, I'm setting up something new for you. It's going to be at cabinet level. And you're going to take the sanitation from local government and take water resources from Works and Housing, combine them and create a new ministry. Your job is to create a new ministry of cabinet level. I accept that. I would also extend it to the Irrigation Development Authority, given the one village, one dam concept, and also the fact that the Water Resources Commission has responsibility for all the water bodies and riverways in the country. And that comes straight under the Water Resource Ministry. So for now, I can see the Environmental Health Division of Local Government coming on stream. I can see the Works Department, the Water Department of Works and Housing. I can see the Irrigation Development Authority. Perhaps hydrology in a way will also have to come in, because it's not just the gutters. That's hydrology. We're talking about the riverways, which again, as I said, comes under water resources. So those are the major agencies that I can see for now. The collaboration will have to extend beyond that to environmental, lands, agric, and a few others. So these are the key agencies. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
How you intend to protect our water bodies? What policies will you initiate?
This is a very vital question. I see some relatively simple approaches to this, even though the implementation could be complex. Some efforts have been made in the past year or two from the previous government. I recall Mr. Husseini was quite forceful in trying to stop the Galamsey menace. I think the first instance is to try and protect the water bodies that we have, so that it's not those bodies are not polluted, and that we don't run out of good drinking water. That's one thing we have to do through the enforcement arrangements. Second, the experts have indicated what you just stated. We're running out of water, but they've also come up with ideas on how to recharge the aquifers, as they call them, the groundwater. Yes. So, and they've peddled some ideas around that I've listened to. I've not been able to hold some in-depth discussions with them. It is my hope that as scientists, they would have interrogated the subject deep enough to be able to point us the right way forward. But if capturing rainwater and pumping it down to certain levels where the aquifers will be recharged, I think that would be one good approach to dealing with this matter. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Every imported product into the country ends up becoming a waste. Will you consider some tax elements to make sure that at least you mobilize some funds to be able to deal with the waste menace?
I understand there's supposed to be a sanitation fund that's operational now, but there's no transparency about it. The NPP, or the waste fund, the NPP has stated in its manifesto to take this matter up to a high level. I think this is something we consider. I cannot say outright whether it's going to be a tax, because there are ideas, there are options on how we can recoup money from treating this waste. So why think about tax in the first instance? Let's look at how best to deal with the problem without burdening the business community again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Today, Ghana stands at 76% in terms of access to both rural and urban water. What will you do to improve that to 100%? From what period? What should we expect you to do to improve access to water from the 76% working towards the 100% target we have set for 2025?
The NPP is committed to making funds available for this effort to be carried out. My duty as a cabinet minister in a newly created ministry and getting the attention of the presidency will be to put in all the effort we need for him to okay what the Minister of Finance will release to us to be able to carry this forward. We'll also look critically at cutting costs where there's no need for, shall we say, ventures to be padded up, as it were. That is applying the procurement law effectively said that we get value for money. I think if we do this, we can make some savings and be able to get a lot more boreholes or mechanized systems all over the place. That's one aspect of it. The development partners, as I said, are also excited about supporting us. And from my reading so far, my discussions with the sector operators, there's even an example of some huge sums of monies that are supposed to be the system to help us achieve this. But unfortunately, the absorption capacity has been very low. An example of $150 million, very little has been used.
Tamale, I recall that our good uncle is seated behind you. Under Honorable Hakma Uswajiman, we saw the Bywater Initiative, which expanded access to Tamale, including Dalong and its environment. Today, if you take, for instance, Kakwaile, Veteng, Lamashegu, Suine, Jisonayele, through Sanargu, Nyane, Kamvle, they don't have access to water. And sometimes some of the communities for 1-2 years have not been able to have potable drinking water. What will you do to improve water in the region, including DRA? On your way to Navrongo from the airport as I drive through you, DRA, Savlugu, Nantong area, and I'm sure many other districts of Ghana are in need of access to water. What will you do to upscale what your honorable colleague started a few years ago?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, indeed, when the honorable minority leader started asking the question about Adamango, I I thought he was going to say that, are you going to continue the project and move it closer to Tamale South? So it was expected. Mr. Chairman, the project is viable. We can push it forward. We'll get it done and get the water available, not just to the Demongo people, but if we can lay pipelines and send it up to Tamale and go beyond South Tamale into North Tamale, Suwini's constituency, I'm sure they'll all be happy. And as I drive through Tamale, south or north to Navrungu, I think they'll all be happy to stop and give him some yams or giving them water. Yeah, I'll push it forward, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
In the nominee's answer to a question, I saw him make some reference to the Irrigation Development Authority, because by the mandate, I don't seem to understand what President Akufo-Addo wants to do through the creation of this ministry. I just see a ministry for water resources. Water resources must include issues of irrigation development. And I do know that, for instance, Tamale, which is very close to you in the Upper East region, is an irrigable area. Kamba in the Upper West region have been on the drawing board since President Nkrumah. There was one, Amate in the Eastern region, Imprem in the Central region, and then my own Pagaza on the Yendi Road, and Sabari. What will you do beyond Nana Akufo-Addo's one dam, one village? We expect you to deliver irrigation to support the production of horticultural exports into Ghana, taking advantage of the Tamale International Airport. What assurance do you have for our committee?
I can give you is the focus of the President and his government in making this a priority ministry. Whatever we need to do to ensure that the water bodies, riverways are all protected and they're made available to us. This is what we're here to do. But Mr. Chairman, I must make the distinction between what the Water Resource Commission will be doing for us under the Water Resource Ministry as against the agronomical matters, cultivation, what have you. Our job would be to handle the infrastructure, construct the dams, make sure the water is there, make sure that they are protected, and then the Minister of Agriculture will take over the usage of it, whether it's going to use it for irrigation and to cultivate whatever crops, that's their business. If anybody else wants the water for drinking purposes, that's their business. But our job in creating the ministry and dealing with the irrigation authorities to look at infrastructure and protecting it and making sure it's available in as many places in the country as possible.